Good morning, Ram fans. I'm Steve Ivy. Welcome to Monday Morning Cup of Coffee with Steve and Brady. I don't have Brady here. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to join me. We have a little bit of a communication thing, and it turns out I don't have a live interview this morning like I normally do. I had to pre-record. I have Tim Shelton that I pre-recorded with. These coaches are really, really busy right now. You really learn a lot trying to set up interviews for 8 o'clock in the morning on a Monday in mid-season when a team is competing for a Mountain West Conference championship. The coaches had meetings starting at 7 o'clock this morning in preparation for San Diego State. Remember, they just finished playing a game on Saturday afternoon, and they immediately roll into getting prepared for the next game on Tuesday, which includes practice, walkthroughs, you name it, the level of detail that they go through before they get on an airplane to head to San Diego State for a game tomorrow night. So I don't think Brady's going to be able to make it today since we pre-recorded. He might pop in, but we'll see. Anyway, good weekend for the Rams. A great win over UNLV. We had fun on the post-game show talking about it. Rams were absolutely devastating on Saturday after being really, really good against Fresno on Tuesday. And I can put up the banner from the game. Niko Medved with an unbelievable game, 22, 7, and 5. I put a video out on X yesterday that was called "Lost in 98 Seconds." It was a clip of 98 seconds of just about perfection by Niko Medved, where UNLV had closed the game to 6 with about 11 minutes to go, and a little over 10 minutes to go, and Niko called a timeout, and Niko went to work, and in 98 seconds scored, led to a 7-0 run that moved the lead from 6 to 13. Anyway, that was what ended. I just got a note from Brady. He's not quite to the station. He might pop in, but I'm going to get the interview going with Tim, and then we'll see if we can get Brady on at the end of the show to talk about what's going on with him. Have a little get you set up for a little Bronco talk. A little CSU talk, a little UNC talk, a little Nugget talk, a little Avalanche talk. Brady's a very, very busy man this time of year. I have it easy. I go in depth with CSU. When I say easy, I love it. I love doing it. I love putting the effort into it. But Brady has to cover a wide range of topics and really has to work hard to deliver what the content that he delivers. Here we go. From Jake. So are we beating San Diego State by 20 to 25 as well? Wouldn't that be amazing? New Mexico had them by 20 with 4 minutes to go and ended up winning by 14 at the pit. But Jake, that's a great comment. Wouldn't that be fun if that happened? I don't think so. I think the CSU team will be competitive. I think it can be a very, very good game. I'll talk a little bit about it. You'll see in the interview with Tim, this is a really enjoyable interview that I recorded with him yesterday. A lot of you might not know Tim very well. He came to CSU last year. He's had a very strong career as an assistant coach, as a player, and you'll learn all about him. So let's just start it right away. I don't need to talk any longer. This will go for just under 30 minutes, and then we'll see if Brady can come on. With assistant coach Tim Shelton. Tim, thanks a lot for joining me out of a very, very busy schedule. Really looking forward to spending time with you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm great, actually. We're in the middle of the season, and our guys are getting better. No better job in the world. So I cannot complain. But beyond that, I'm doing really well, and I'm enjoying it.
I want everybody to know we're pre-recording for the Monday show. Tim is a very, very busy man. And thank you. I appreciate you taking the time out of a busy schedule. The team is getting ready to travel to San Diego to play a big game, and there's a lot of stuff that happens after a Saturday game to get ready for a Tuesday game, especially when an assistant coach is in charge of the scout. And so, Tim, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I want to start with basically. So we had a little fun interchange where you talked about. I said I wanted to have you on the show, and you said, the week of San Diego State, how convenient. And I fired back, who has the scout for San Diego State? You said me, and I said, how convenient. So we decided it would be a good thing to do. But I want to talk more to start with about the culture at San Diego State. That's what you grew up in. That's where you started out of high school. You played your playing career there. You were grad assistant, director of player development, assistant coach, and then later went on to Fresno and Oregon State. But when you started at San Diego State, coming out of high school, you were a very, very good high school player. Why did you choose San Diego State? I'm curious, because they weren't that big a power at the time.
I mean, I was one of the younger guys that, I had a lot of really good mentorship when it came to sports, right? My father played. I had a lot of older brothers that played Division I, NFL, all that stuff. So, I had a combination of things. I had a really good relationship at the time with the assistant coach who was there, Justin Hudson. Very familiar with him from Bakersfield, and he coached me in high school. So you talk about a relationship that had quite a few layers. In terms of knowing me, knowing my family, and understanding what I was looking for. At the time, I was coming off a knee injury. I didn't even really play my senior year of high school, but San Diego State did a wonderful job recruiting me as a junior, and then into my senior year. And then after I was hurt, I really thought they did a great job continuing to get to know me and encourage me, and show that they believed in me in terms of recovery and wanting to be there. Especially Steve Fisher, who, when we really got to know each other, I felt like he was a special head coach.
For those that don't know, Tim's dad, Lonnie, was a heck of a basketball player. I think I saw him play once in Madison Square Garden. I used to live back east, and I'm pretty sure I saw him play at least once. What a good basketball player. Played at Oregon State, right?
Yeah, so we talk about that another time. Me coaching at Oregon State was fun as well because of my family ties there as well. But
now, did he try and push you at all toward Oregon State?
No, I mean he was never that way. He was always about best fit for me. I was very aware that he went to Oregon State, and I wasn't really on their radar that much back then. And as a college player, ended up being pretty solid, helping a team win. But I'm not sure it was necessarily an option for me all the way.
So you started your career at San Diego State, obviously with Steve Fisher, Brian Dutcher, and Justin Hudson there as well. Yeah. That's kind of an all-star cast of characters. But you were at the beginning of when the program really started to take off. I'm disappointed my partner Brady couldn't be here today. Brady went to University of Northern Colorado, and you and I have talked about this. Your freshman year at San Diego State, you actually came and played in Greeley, Colorado. And I went to that game only because I was writing a preview for the Mountain West that year, and I wanted to do as much, see as much of the teams in person as I could. And I happened to be there. And for those of you that don't know, and I'm about to show it, this is the box score from that game. I don't know. Can you see it very well?
Let's try to go to full screen. And there we go. Yeah, I see it right there. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a pretty impressive box score. Probably the best game, might have been the best game you ever played, at least point wise. Hard to argue with a perfect game. 6 for 6 from the field, 4 for 4 from the floor, 2 for 2 from 3 for 3 on free throws, 17 points. I looked at the overall offensive rating, and normally a 120 or a 130 is pretty good. You had a 200 offensive rating that game. Do you remember much from that game?
I remember it a little bit. I remember being out here, and it really being my first time out here. And then I just remember how the game felt, getting the easy basket to start and making the three, then just playing hard and losing myself in the game. And when you're young like that and you get an opportunity to be in, Usually you've earned it because you're playing hard and the coach thinks you're going to go help them win. I didn't expect to necessarily score, the way I did, but my shot selection was good. And as the game continued to go on, I still didn't obviously take 10 shots, but the ones I took were efficient and I made them all.
I remember watching it. I'm going, who is this guy? Because, you go in and when you're rating an article and you kind of know a little bit about some of the players, and I'm looking at this guy, it's like, holy moly, this guy's good. And it was fun for me to watch that. It's even more fun that you showed up here and I can share the story with you. The culture at San Diego State, in a nutshell, how would you describe what you grew up with there in those first years?
Man, it's really wonderful to see it grow, into what it is now. And I can still remember, talking to Coach Fisher initially during the recruitment and, on my official visit, just him not necessarily selling the dream because it didn't feel like a dream. It didn't come across as a dream, to him and the staff, but really speaking on the possibilities, and he felt like it was a special place. He felt like it was a group of special people. And what he essentially said was when you make your decision and it's based on the people, and those people's intentions for you, usually something good ends up happening. And he said, in this program and what I believe we can do with the people we have is make a national championship, is win a national championship. And that's what I aspire to do here at San Diego State. So with that, I got there. I thought we had a really good freshman class that I was a part of. My roommate at the time was DJ Gay, who ended up being a Hall of Famer, at San Diego State and a 4-year starter.
Just to interrupt, he was DJ Gay hit the big 2-pointer at CSU in 2011. I can still see it. What a player.
But the type of character, that he had and the type of character I had and us partnered up and realizing, okay, like we've got some talent. We've got the right attitude towards this. How can we impact winning as freshmen? And then my sophomore year, Kawhi Leonard coming around, a little bit different. He had a different level of talent and focus and ability to retain information and apply it right away as a young guy. He was phenomenal mentally, to go along with his physical abilities. I thought they did a phenomenal job, recruiting the right type of young men and then challenging themselves to recruit a higher level of talent but also retaining a certain level of character, and work ethic. Very similar to what we do, what Niko's done at Colorado State and how you want to build culture. And then before you knew it, we had a chip on our shoulder and how we worked. We always knew that there was something special brewing. And then, all it takes is the right momentum, right? And the right ability to maybe stay healthy and continue to grow confidence and gain a certain level of IQ and camaraderie, kind of within what you're doing intangibly to do something special. And all of a sudden it happened. It really did. The momentum shifted and, we were number 3 in the country. Yeah. My junior year, and that was the year where Jimmer Fredette was in the league, and BYU and TCU and Utah, and there's the leagues changed obviously, and so many have now. But when I think back on what we were building and how we were building it, and now reflecting on it as a coach, you see it different. I really think that strategically how the pieces came together and the type of people that were already involved in the program and the type of young men that you continue to bring into the program, were the right fit. For what the vision was.
That 2011 team was probably my favorite non-CSU team of all time in the Mountain West. I loved that team. Malcolm Thomas, Billy White, Kawhi. I don't know if I ever told you my Kawhi Leonard story. It was his freshman year, and when he came to play at CSU, and CSU had some pretty good bigs, Andy Ogaday and Travis Franklin. I don't know if you remember them. Andy was at the game yesterday.
Very good.
And I remember the very first shot of the game. It was the ball came to Malcolm Thomas, who turned and shot a kind of a jump hook, and it missed. And all of a sudden, Thomas is going after the ball. Billy White attacking the rim from the weak side. Ogaday and Franklin going up, and all of a sudden you see a pair of hands a foot above everybody else, and it was Kawhi Leonard. And I at that point I realized this guy's going to be something special. It must have been crazy practicing with him when he was a kid.
Yeah, I mean he's always had a really special ability to focus in and compete on everything. Like I mentioned before, he was a pleasure to be around, even though at times he was kind of quiet and filling everybody out. But one thing you always understood about him and observed about him was that he really loved the game of basketball, and he took the preparation process serious. The more you just kind of spent time in the gym with him or were around him, you understood that, man, he really wants to win. He really wants to get better. He really cares about each and every day. He doesn't waste a day. And then the further you got along, you realize something that we were taught in the summer in June and July, he retained and could get an A on how he remembered it and how he demonstrated it, in November. He didn't need a lot of reps in order to get something right and do something with detail. And then you found out in year 2, and as you spent more time with him, that was a really special ability of his, that his mind was really special. You could put him anywhere on the floor and he was going to understand the details of how to set you up, on how to be successful within his own game. Defensively and offensively, he was a special talent mentally, just as he was physically.
Yeah. So before we leave the San Diego State, your time as a player there, you must have a million stories about Fisher. Do you have any favorite story about Steve Fisher?
Man, it's kind of hard maybe to point to one. Like I really admired about Coach Fisher his consistency. And when I say that, he always took the approach of a combination of like a father figure, a mentor, a disciplinarian. And then he really was a John Wooden guy, so he embodied so many things as a leader that you just admired over time, because he was so consistent with how he treated everyone, how he communicated, what he cared about, what he decided to jump on you about versus, what he decided to make an example of, with the entire team. And he just balanced it all so well. He always made you feel going into the games that you were the most confident kid, that you were the best player in the world, that you can go out and beat anybody. And it's hard to do that. It's this job is business in general. The demands, away from the court, before you ever get to game day are tremendous. And he just balanced it all so well with so much grace. And then he just remembered things about you, your parents' names, your dog's name back in the day, like your favorite food, something that you said, something that you do like, don't like. He just cared. There was a certain level of care factor that went beyond X's and O's with him that he demonstrated on a daily basis, that everybody remembered how he made them feel. And that's one of the stories kind of all come together in a reflection of that, just remembering how he made me feel, and remembering how encouraged I was as a player, remembered how encouraged I felt, as a young coach trying to figure things out, for someone who gave me my first opportunity and really believed in me, but also was a truth teller, to say, hey, this is going to be hard, and this is going to be the challenges, and this is what I understand about your personality that you need to work on. And here's how you've handled adversity, with X, Y, and Z. And this is what I think, can help you if you're willing to listen to my advice. So, and a long story short, just the way he carried himself and treated people.
I got to share I only have one Steve Fisher story, and it was the year I was writing, covering games for as kind of a member of the media, and CSU was in a very tight game. I think it was a 1-point game with 10 seconds to go. It was before you got to San Diego State. It was probably in the days of Brandon Heath. Anyway, it was a 1-point game. CSU had the ball with about maybe 8 seconds and inbounding from the sideline. And San Diego State forced a turnover, that travel, and the game ended. And I asked Fisher after the game, I said, what were you thinking on that final play? And Tim, he was the nicest man. He actually walked me in detail through his entire thought process during the timeout. And the thought process was, we double bigs the whole game. We send that second big to double. And we had Jason Smith at the time, who played a dozen years in the NBA.
You should double him.
Well, they did the whole game. And then the final play, they knew Fisher was smart enough to know that the very last play, CSU would expect the double team and would run something to get a guy an open shot. And Fisher decided he wasn't going to double Jason Smith. The ball came to him, and he was waiting for the double and waiting for the double, and it never came. No one was open, and he traveled. And Fisher explained to me his whole thought process as to why he did it, because he knew they wouldn't expect it, and he did it in. I consider him a professor of the game. He explained it in the most intellectual, educational way you could ever imagine, and I developed tremendous respect for him. You are so lucky that you've had that influence from him. He was a joy to talk to.
Amen to that, and I completely agree. You know, he really is and was just a joy to talk to, and you know, there's another example of just how he treats people. You know, he takes the time and he's intentional about, you know, just continue to be who he is. It's just in him. You know, you can't change that.
So you finish up school. You go through the first few years at San Diego State, and then you head out to Fresno. Now, did you get hired? Was it Justin that hired you there, or was it Rodney Terry?
So it was Justin Hudson, actually. You know, we were on staff together at San Diego State. Again, the guy who helped recruit me there initially, right? That relationship was strong. You know, he's from Bakersfield, California. I'm from Bakersfield, California. My dad, actually, when he got done playing, he ended up coaching Coach Hudson, like at a camp at Bakersfield College, and they go way back. So it's about my father when he was a child. So kind of full circle there with being from the same area. And, you know, we had a good year. The year he got, you know, the position at Fresno State. And, you know, that was a really hard decision to make, you know, leaving San Diego State, leaving that place that I grew up in, and with all the people that helped mentor me, including Coach Hudson, you know, to decide to leave and kind of bet on myself a little bit, but also challenge myself a little bit to say, okay, I feel like I kind of understand the resources that we have available at San Diego State. Is this the right challenge for me? Is this the right process for, you know, what I believe I want my career to be? And, you know, during that process, it's hard. You know, it's the feelings are involved. When people help raise you, Brian Dutcher, Dave Velasquez, Matt Soria, those guys helped raise me, you know, along with Justin Hudson, Steve Fisher. You know, leaving those guys is hard, you know, and I'm grateful enough that everything, you know, we built together in a relationship remains, because they could have easily felt some type of way, you know, but it was fun to go take on a new challenge with Coach Hudson. It was different. Again, different level of resources, you know, different community, a place that I was familiar with because of high school, but new challenges, you know, bigger role, more responsibility on the floor, more responsibility in recruiting, something that helped, you know, get me a lot better quickly. And that fire and that pressure is what you want, you know, especially when you do have an opportunity and some time on a staff that looks at you in a way to say, hey, you know, I know you're a younger guy, you know, I know what your DNA and your makeup is, but again, take this challenge with responsibility and help this program grow. And I'm grateful for Justin Hudson for, you know, really kind of getting me to see what that challenge was. And I accepted that challenge, you know, and it was a good time at Fresno State. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about the business, and how to operate, you know, in a different way.
Were you involved with the recruitment of Orlando Robinson?
I was, you know, that was a relationship that was, you know, more deeply rooted in some work that Coach Hudson had done in the past, you know, when he was at UNLV, when Orlando's AAU program, you know, got ties with San Diego State's program, and you know, those relationships developed over time. Very, very familiar with that program. They run a good program. And Orlando Robinson was a guy I spent time watching and evaluating. I wouldn't say I was the lead on that one, but I definitely would say my relationship helped.
That was one guy when I saw him play. I forget who I told, but I said, God, I wish we could have a guy like that at CSU. What a great player he was, still is.
Yeah, another phenomenal young man. You know, I learned a lot, you know, being able to coach Orlando and help develop Orlando. And he's with Sacramento Kings right now. So you got a big fella, you know, who reached his goal of being in the NBA and, you know, did not get drafted. He really didn't. You know, he put himself out there. And the one thing we all loved about him, you know, even when he made that decision as a junior, was we felt like regardless of the outcome that he was ready to be a professional. You know, it's a lot more than momentum and being on the draft boards. It's how do you carry yourself on a daily basis? You know, how do you go about your business? Your body is your business. Your mind is your business. You know, every day taking advantage of getting better. He understood that, and that's part of why he's successful now and still on the right track to get a long contract in the stick.
So Then from Fresno, Oregon State for a year. I'm not going to spend much time on Oregon State, although they're about to be a conference mate, I guess.
Right.
But then 2 seasons ago, you came to CSU. I remember talking to Niko that summer. I knew we had an opening, and Niko looked at me and said, "When we make this announcement, we're about to hit a home run." I know how excited he was to get you on the staff. What was it that appealed to you about coming to CSU?
Man, so many things. Obviously, there was a familiarity there, just being in the conference and, recruiting against Colorado State, scouting against Colorado State, just admiring how they worked and how they developed and, the growth and the progress and the development of the program overall and Coach Medved's leadership. It was intriguing. I was always interested to know more about how the program operated, but, leaving Oregon State was tough. I didn't plan on leaving. I got a phone call and it interested me. I made my boss aware there. And he was awesome about it. Coach Tinkles is salt of the earth, man. He's a real guy, and he gave me a big time opportunity, but also allowed me to leave with some grace too. I think, his relationship helped me develop again. But Niko, man, like when he reached out and we got to know each other more, and Ali, there was a connection there, a genuine natural connection that I was intrigued by, and I was curious to kind of get to know more. And then, I always got my butt kicked by Isaiah Stevens. So knowing he was coming back, that was exciting to kind of be like, okay, let's go see what we can do. And obviously defensively, we had some conversations about, the things I'd done in the past at San Diego State, at Fresno State, and some of the concepts at Oregon State with the changing zones and things that Coach Tinkle's done. Niko was intrigued to say, okay, like let's see if we can partner and you can just find your rhythm and find your, identity, but I'm going to encourage you, and empower you, as you're being yourself to do more, and that's what the experience has been. It's been wonderful.
The big change, obviously, so you walk into a situation, obviously Isaiah coming back was huge, but you also walked into a situation with, a new player in Joel Scott, with Pat Cartier coming back. And there were some challenges there in terms of getting them ready to play. And play, and the level of defense, the improvement at the defensive level last year was, I categorized, and I think I've mentioned it to you and other people, was kind of a major change in terms, especially with a guy like Cartier, who really didn't defend well his first year, and he'd be the first to admit it, but. A lot of that, he worked hard in the offseason, but a lot of that is guys like you getting involved with the teaching aspect of it. What was the challenge with Cartier and Joel Scott, teaching them how to defend in the paint last year?
Honestly, there wasn't a lot of challenges. Those guys were men. In coaching, you say you win with men, and that doesn't necessarily mean they're young or old, but their approach to it, they were men. They both had different abilities. They both really worked hard in the weight room and understood what, through their levels of experience, kind of what the process was supposed to look like. But in terms of the teaching, the main thing is that Coach Medved cares about defense. So when the head guy cares and he allots you time in practice, and when we meet, and we discuss philosophy and we discuss strategy and we discuss personnel, right? Obviously, we're not the same type of athletes as some of the teams in our league that defend well, but you want to develop your own identity on defense, and you want to be smart about how you develop that identity within your personnel, but you also want to have a high level in terms of the baseline of what the disciplinary factors are, what the communication is. And, I really thought we came together that summer and had healthy conversations while we were evaluating that group, along with CJ Rivers, who's at Marquette now. He brought a high level of understanding of what it was supposed to look like, how he executed where he was at in Loyola, Chicago. And then collectively we came together and we decided this is what our baseline should be. And then that's when it gets really fun for me. If you see me at practice and you have, I love practice and I love defense. So the energy I'm going to bring towards it, I'm going to try to keep a certain level of standard, right? Every single day, whether it's body language, whether it's communication, whether it's technique, right? Whether it's timing, whether it's vision. So there's so many categories and everyone's so unique and so specific to where they're at. holding people accountable and continue to encourage them and give them confidence that they're making smarter reads, that they're being physical when they're supposed to. That's kind of the art of it. And that part is fun. But if you don't have the boss that allows you the freedom to do it and the voice to do it, then it does make it harder to discipline it and to build it.
As we switch to this year, you lost basically a lot of your veterans. You brought back Rashawn, who was a 10-minute a game player. You added 2 new players. Has it been fun working with such young players for you this year and watching them develop?
Absolutely. And I mean, you've watched us, you've seen us grow, and we've seen ourselves grow. I think within our meetings, we encourage our guys, and they see it too. We play a lot of sophomores, we play some freshmen, like we're doing some things that, when these guys are getting that level of experience and they're showing you each and every week that they're starting to see it better. They're starting to get more confidence in making those reads and then attacking situations defensively. It's like, that's exactly what you want to see and continue to encourage, because most of the best defenses, obviously, they've got a certain level of toughness and IQ and strategy. But we say this all the time, that the best defenses operate well in the gray area. And when they feel certain situations and see certain situations, they can attack them with a certain level of technique and detail and discipline. And I think our team is starting to really do that. And our young guys are starting to turn a corner on understanding what that means and what that looks like.
Statistically, it shows up in the fact that the 2-point defense, the 2-point field goal defense is incredibly good. It was, it's either first or second in the conference right now. And it shows that the bigs are, obviously the guards have to do well to keep people from getting to the rim, but you guys are doing a very good job of taking up space in the middle and keeping people from getting all the way to the rim. You're seeing a lot of 6-foot, 8-foot, 10-foot shots. Those are the ones that get missed, not the ones that get laid in. And I think you guys are doing an incredible job, especially with the young group. I can't imagine, I've had Kyle Jorgensen on the show, but you want to talk about an education for him. There are nights where he went to school on Saturday for a little bit with that big guy from UNLV, and it seems like he always comes out in the second half and plays better. And it seems like he's learning, and obviously that's got to be a challenge for you to keep a freshman from not losing confidence.
And it's hard in general, regardless of how hard we work, he has to feel that way. We have to help him feel that way. But the experiences, they do the job more than anything. And I'm so proud of Kyle. He's a young guy who's figuring it out. I mean, there are some really challenging matchups throughout college basketball, especially in our league. And, he's taken the challenge. And I'm telling you, every week he's all of a sudden making more winning plays and seeing it different. And, it's growing his confidence. He's a guy that, when you look at it, you don't necessarily think he's going to go make plays around the rim, but all of a sudden he is, because he's seeing it and his technique is showing up and his decision-making is growing. And so I'm excited to see, how much better he can get to end the season.
Well, I think I need to wrap up. I've kept you about 5 or 10 minutes longer than I said
No
I would.
worries. No worries.
This has been awesome. Thank you so much for spending the time. Obviously, we're looking forward to the game on Tuesday night against what's going to be a pretty angry team after what happened to them. And then obviously on to Wyoming on the weekend. But Tim, thank you so much for spending time with me. I am so glad we were able to get this thing worked out. And I know you're a busy man. Thanks again. Let's do it again. Okay.
We will. My pleasure. I back to work, time to get back to work now.
You bet. Safe travels to San Diego. We'll see you when you get back, man.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Go Rams.
You bet. Go Rams. That was my interview with Tim Shelton. I thought that was as much fun. I can't imagine having any more fun than I had with Tim. The level of knowledge that this young man has assembled from the early years playing at San Diego State, learning under coaches like Steve Fisher and Brian Dutcher and Justin Hudson, and then going on to work not just at San Diego State, but with Hudson at Fresno. I'm very happy we have him at Colorado State. You've seen some changes in the level of defense we're playing here in the last couple of years since Tim has arrived. He's really brought a lot not just in terms of technique and teaching, but he's added to the culture as well. You heard him talk about the culture that Steve Fisher had developed, and Tim was in on the ground floor of that, like we talked about. You heard him talk about the culture under Fisher, moving on with Hudson, and then on even with Wayne Tinkle at Oregon State, and now at CSU with Niko. He's really added a lot. It's been a joy to have him. The other thing I can't stress enough, I really wanted to go live with him. I love to go live. It's a lot more fun to be live with guests. They did not have the time to do it today. They were going at 7 a.m. this morning. The level of detail that this team goes through to prepare it's unbelievable. I talked a little bit with Tim offline about it, and he will tell you this program under Niko Medved gets into the most granular level of detail more than any other program he's been involved with. And so they were started at 7 o'clock this morning, and they had detailed meetings. I went to practice yesterday, saw the walkthrough. They started walking through. You know, one of the hardest things is you come off practices and a game on a Saturday. The last thing you want to do is burn a team out on Sunday by practicing very, very hard. And so a lot of what they did yesterday was walking through a lot of what they're going to see from San Diego State, their offense. And so working on the defensive structures and then running some plays offensively as well. Some of the things that they'll probably focus on and some of the looks they think they'll get against San Diego State. When I talk about level of detail, for those of you that attended the game on Saturday, there were a couple of plays that CSU ran, baseline out of bound plays. And they run a lot of different stuff. They have so many things they can throw at opponents that it's very, very hard for opponents to prepare. And these are the moments that win games, especially close games. If you watch Utah State the other night, Utah State down 2 points to Boise State with 8 or 10 seconds to go, and they ran a sideline out of bounds play that I guarantee you they had practiced a bunch of times. Ian Martinez hit a 3 to win the game, got fouled. It was CSU does similar kinds of things, and they ran a couple of baseline out of bounds plays that freed. Number one, you saw Nick Clifford. As I mentioned, I put a video out on yesterday that talked about the 98 seconds of a 7-point run that basically took a close game to ending the game in a span of 98 seconds. It was all Nick Clifford. They ran a baseline out of bounds play for Nick, and he drained a 3. Later on, CSU was they're going to win the game, but they're running. They still have the starters out there, and the ball gets knocked out of bounds on the baseline, and there's 2 seconds on the shot clock. And CSU ran a play and got the ball to Jalen Lake, who shot a wide open 3 and drained it. Those aren't accidents. Those are preparation. Those are levels of detail that CSU does that they practice. But the other side of it is, I can tell you right now that they work very, very hard on understanding the other team's baseline out of bounds plays. And they are so well schooled into what the other team's going to run. The other team better add something new and better add a wrinkle, because if they've done anything on videos, I guarantee you, with the level of detail that this coaching staff gets into, it is amazing what they do. I have a question from Taylor here. Is our coaching staff as a whole top 3 in the Mountain West, in your opinion? If not, how can you get there? I wouldn't trade this staff for any other staff, Taylor. The level of what they do from Niko on down. The offense that Niko runs is very, very complex and very, very detailed. They run so much stuff, it's hard to prepare for. You better have athletes, and you better go in with a philosophy that relies on your athleticism, because you're probably not going to outsmart them. And then defensively, if you look at what they teach, CSU is not loaded with the elite athletes that you might see at other schools. So what they're teaching is a little different style of defense. It relies less on athleticism, more on intelligence and positioning and staying connected, 5 men connected. And you've seen the rise in what you saw what happened last year. This staff is really, really good. We've lost some good ones. Obviously, the Dave Thorsons of the world, the J.R. Blunts of the world, and even C.J. Rivers last year going to Marquette. But I wouldn't trade Niko, Ali, Brian Cooley, who I've had on the show, Tim, who we just had, Ken DeWeese, all those guys. It's a really, really good staff, and I wouldn't trade them for anybody else. Comment from Jake: what a great interview, so fun. Not sure what other podcasts get this kind of access. I can tell you that, Jake, thanks a lot. Tim is fantastic. That was as easy and as much fun as I've had. Like I said, him we recorded around dinner time last night. Tim looked really, really good because he had to go get his haircut. He had to set that up. He pulled up the schedule to get the haircut just so he could fit in the interview before he went to dinner. So he made a lot of arrangements. The support I get from Niko Medved to do this show and to get all these people is second to none. Trust me on this. To the point, I talked to Niko after the game on Saturday. He said, let's talk about it at practice on Sunday. What did I do? I went to practice on Sunday. First thing Niko did after practice said, hey, is there any way you can pre-record with Tim? Because it's going to be really, really tough on Monday morning. And I said, I already talked it over with Tim. We'll get it all set up. But he was concerned. He cared. And that's the level of that's the level of support I get to be able to do this. The players have been fantastic. We're going to start. We'll see. We'll bring on. There's some players I haven't had on that I still want to get Ethan Morton and still want to get Keyshawn Williams on. We'll get those guys on sooner or later. And then we'll get into some other. We'll have some other guys on again. I've had Jalen Lake on twice. We'll get some other guys. I had great success with Rashawn Mbemba. We talked about it Saturday in my post-game show. I had Rashawn on the show on Thursday night, and he immediately followed up with a 22-point career high. So anyway, it's getting to be a lot of fun. Taylor, thank you so much. Great insights. Always enjoy learning more about the staff and players. They are, like Jake asked, what kind of access does anybody get this guy? They don't. And these coaches and players are so open, so honest, down to earth. That's the kind of people. That's what this culture is all about. They are upfront. There's no tricks. Everything is straight up front. And I can't tell you how much fun I'm having. One of the concerns I had this year, I kind of joked about it, offline when I talked to Tim, was, last year would have been an easy year to start a YouTube channel and start doing these things, because that team was so darn good. And there would have been a lot more, maybe a lot more attraction early on, because, here we moved 12th in the country and people would have glommed onto it. This year, to me, more challenge. We lost all those great players: Isaiah, Pat, Joel, Joe, Josiah. We lost some great players, and it's a brand new team. Other than Neek and Jalen were integral parts of the rotation, and then Rashawn and Kyan got some time, but they little smaller roles. So you really only had 4 guys coming back, and it's a new team, and so you knew there were going to be growing pains. I started going to practice in the summer. I decided to start the channel in I think it was late August, September, and this has been a lot of fun for me. It's obviously a lot of growth and a it takes a lot of time. I'm having a blast, but it's fun watching this team develop. And to me, this is what college basketball is all about. People have asked me, they asked me a year ago, are you excited to have Zay coming back? And I said, of course I'm excited to have him come back, because from a fan perspective, there's no player that's more fun to watch than Isaiah Stevens. I loved watching him for 4 years, and it was a blessing to have him for a fifth year. But then in the same breath, I would say, but if he doesn't come back, that's okay. The team might not be as good, but I enjoy watching players develop. That's what I grew up with college basketball. Was, when I was in college, they had freshman basketball teams, and then the varsity was sophomore through senior. And so you'd watch freshmen, and then you'd watch them get integrated into the lineup. And then in the mid 70s, freshmen became eligible. And it changed a little bit, but at least you'd see them develop, come in as freshmen and develop. Now it's a little different with portal and transfers and this and that. You bring in older teams, and older is better. But for me, the fun of college basketball is watching players develop, and then as a result, not just watching the players develop individually, but watch the team come together. And the CSU team has really become a joy to watch. They have come a long way since the early days in November, those early games where they were very much up and down. But we've seen, the rock solid performance throughout the entire year that we thought we'd get out of Neek, Clifford, and Jalen Lake. But we've seen the development of players like Rashawn Mbemba. We've seen Kyan Evans really come on over the last month. We've seen Jalen Crocker-Johnson come from another program, still a young player, a sophomore. CSU starts 3 sophomores. They are the only team in the conference starting 3 sophomores, and watching them come together. And then Kyle Jorgensen, a freshman, contributing, and we've seen the contributions he's made. And then the core players that they brought in from the portal that are been really, really important to this team, not just the quality of play, but the maturity they've added. The Ethan Mortons, the Keyshawn Williams, the Bowen Bournes, and the rotation is really, really starting to come together as they have advanced and learned how to play together. And we're starting to see the fruits of their labors come together. 3 straight 20-plus point wins. I had a comment earlier from Taylor, 20-plus point dubs only. Wouldn't it be nice if we beat them by 20, San Diego State by 20? If we win that game, I would be ecstatic. It's going to be a very, very angry team. I can tell you right now, after their loss to New Mexico, San Diego State is still an NCAA tournament team. They're not going to fall out of favor. They're still a very, very good team. They've got some good veterans. They've got some great young players. It will be a major challenge, but it's one that I'm looking forward to. But anyway, and I'm going to wrap up. Next show I do will be tomorrow night. We'll do a post-game stream after the San Diego State game. Obviously, I'll do my Swolapalooza Thursday show. I still don't have a guest lined up for that. I haven't decided if I'm going to bring in somebody from the program or maybe somebody from outside the program, and we'll just do a fun interview. And then obviously on to Saturday and the border war with up in Laramie. So anyway, with that, I'm going to call it a day. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for participating. Thanks again to Tim Shelton. What a wonderful young man he is, and what a great addition to the staff. And I think he saw some real insight into what he's brought to the program. And we're seeing the fruits of his labors as this team grows this year. We're seeing what Tim has added. So thanks again, everybody. Have a great Monday. Thanks for joining me. We'll talk to you soon.